Hi, this is Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com. Hope you enjoyed this Game Industry Insight, a look behind the scenes at game development. And be sure to subscribe and you can pitch future video topics. Alright, for today's Industry Insight, we're going to be talking about game delays and why they are ultimately a good thing when it comes to game development. And this is in response to a game that was supposed to be released, I believe, this weekend. It was I think, a visual novel or dating kind of game, which, for those of you who are fans of Game Wisdom, you won't be seeing games like that too much on this channel. And the game was set to come out, and unfortunately, due to them finding some late in development or some really late bugs, they decided to postpone release. And while there were a lot of people who were more than sympathetic to it, there were those who started to get very riled up, saying things like the developer lied to them, why are you doing it now? Someone even on their Twitter saying that I'm just going to pirate the game anyway, and all that lovely stuff. And when it comes to delaying games, this is never a good thing, or it's never something you want to do, but in many cases it's something that you need to do. Now, this goes back to a critical thought, this could have been an industry insight regarding when to launch your game. Now, I'm sure for any game developers watching this video right now, you will all agree that the 24 hours before launching your game is the happiest and least stress-filled period of your lives. And I'm sure if you could, you would love to experience that at least 3 times a day. Now, after just probably pissing off every game developer watching this, let's talk about why that isn't the case. Now, this goes back to when we talked about launching your game, and it's a very simple fact. You only get one chance to release a video game, for good and for ill. And you have to be really careful about knowing when to launch that title, because any bugs or any critical issues, if they're not caught, can immediately doom a game. And you will not get a second chance at launching a title. Now, there are a few rare exceptions. We've talked about the idea of the redemption play, when a developer will essentially continue working on a title and try re-releasing it or rebranding it with the bugs or issues fixed. An example would be something like Brigador, and then the Brigador Up Armored Edition, Skyshine's Bedlam Redux, and of course Planetary Annihilations to Planetary Annihilations Titans. Unfortunately, in most of these cases, it generally doesn't work. Once word gets out about your game having problems or a bad launch, that kind of stigma is just going to stick. And that's why when it comes to launching your game, you have to be 100% sure that it is time. And this is one of those topics where I am completely in support of developers on delaying their games. And it goes back, I mentioned this on Twitter, it goes back to a quote by Shigeru Miyamoto, where he said that a delayed game can eventually be good, but a rushed game is always bad. And what that essentially means, of course, is rushing a game out the doors is usually signs for failure. Again, we've seen games get put out way too early. They're launched with day one crippling bugs, performance issues. In some cases, the game may not even be done. And you cannot try to, I guess, push against the tide in a matter of speaking. Once a game has been released, you don't want to be releasing emergency patches. As a very famous example of this, when Magica, the first one I believe, was released, the game was so bad in terms of technical issues that the developers basically did, like, I think 2 solid weeks of patches day to day in order to try to get that game up to launch quality. Now, on one hand, that is certainly respectable of them, but on the other hand, you never want to be in that position in the first place. And this is why it is certainly appropriate, if you need to delay a game. And when it comes to, I guess, saying the bad news, unfortunately, this is one of those things that you really won't know until, again, the 11th hour. In some cases, it could be as simple as saying, well, we were planning on releasing it this month, but due to bugs and even just the stress of working, we need to push it back. Now, we have seen delays in all manner of sizes, from a few hours to even a few months in some cases. And while it is never easy on the consumer side, you also need to understand it's not easy for the developers as well. Many developers who are pushing for that launch window are probably going into crunch mode. And one of these days, we need to have an industry insight about the dangers of crunch, because that is a very serious topic, and it's one that has definitely ruined and burnt out a lot of people. But the point is, when it comes to designing a game, you have to know your limitations. And while it may seem great to work, 40 hours and then maybe another 30 hours of crunch to try to get a game out, it's far more productive and healthier to push things back and try to work on things at the best of your capacity. Now, this is going to be a quick industry insight because, again, there really isn't too much to say about this. And I'm sure for you folks watching this, your comments or your opinions will probably depend on where you fall, whether you're a consumer or someone who's had a hand in either software or game development. But nevertheless, for developers watching this, if you feel the need or desire to delay a game, take it. Because at the end of the day, you won't put out a great game that didn't kill you versus a game that you rushed out to the point of unhealthy and still had those bugs. And while it may suck if a game is delayed, again, a few hours to a few months, it should hopefully be a far better game. Now, with that said, of course, for early access and crowdfunding games along those lines, if you're going to delay a game, that still means you have to show progress. And we have seen many early access games start to fall by the wayside. There's massive delays in terms of updates, and then things just disappear. And again, even though it's fair to delay your game, that doesn't mean that you're supposed to stop working on it. And like I said earlier, in earlier Critical Thought, like if you're going 6 months plus without doing any major updates to an early access game, then something has gone wrong. And to keep things straight, this industry insight is just going to focus on games that are at the launch window that have to delay rather than early access development. Because again, they are two different elements. But with that said, we're going to wrap things up here for this quick video for Sunday afternoon. Again, I guess the simple motto for today is you only have one solid chance to launch a game. And at the end of the day, it's better to release a game that you know is at the best of your abilities rather than rushing. And again, that goes for anything when it comes to designing a game. Typically, if you're going to rush something, it's going to hurt the product as a whole. And like I said, with issues of stress and unhealthy amounts of work, you don't want to kill yourself over one game project. But with that said, thank you so much for watching today's Industry Insight. If you enjoyed things, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know if you have any suggestions for future vlog topics, and be sure to check back daily for more design discussions here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Again, this is going to be a quick one because there isn't too much to discuss, but if you have any horror stories of crunch or delaying games you would like to share, make sure to leave in the comments below, and I will catch you all next time. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and come back around 10 Eastern for regular streaming. For a collection of my writings as well as weekly podcasts on game development, be sure to check out game-wisdom.com. Follow me on Twitter at GWBycer for updates throughout the day. And to help support everything that I do, you can find me on Patreon under GWBycer or Game Wisdom. Your donations can help to keep things running, and we hit some goals, it will mean more content for everyone to enjoy. So, thanks again for watching, and be sure to come back for daily discussions on game design on the Game Wisdom channel.